Okay, everybody, so I need you to listen up because we are going to be doing quite a bit of things today. So we're going to be really, really busy. These meetings this week will be a little bit longer and more thorough. Okay, like they have been. Now, what's going to be happen is, first things first for the agenda for today, which is the 19th of October. The first thing is I really, really want you all to try to feel and see around you a change of energy. So, from now up until the 23rd is the cusp. What's called the cusp. And what two signs are, kind of mixing their energies with each other? Yes. Yes. Libra and Scorpio. So you're going to be feeling definitely, a little bit less of that Libran lightness, airiness, harmony, all of those types of things. So this cusp is called light and the dark. And to Scorpios, light is the dark and, dark, no. Yes, light is the dark and dark is the light. So, if you didn't know, this weekend I was masting a couple videos. Masting is a word. If you go on my website, it is spelled M-A-E-S-T-I-N-G. The word masting means, I know what you're all thinking, it rhymes with hasting, hasting. This word means, and I'll circle it so that you can see. I'm going to be using the board a lot more. So, masting means making something that is very, very long and drawn out. That uses, a lot of hard work. So I was masting a couple videos this weekend, a couple math videos, because I was really taking into consideration a channel. If you don't go to YouTube and you don't know Math Antics, which is a person who makes math videos. That's basically what I was doing. The idea partially came off of what homeschooling would be like for the Zeglers. And obviously Melissa's not here. But really try to tie in all of those, those school-related things to it as much as possible. But there's probably a lot more gain from the actual dancing and competitions, far more than they would ever learn in indoctrination center. So, they're having real life experiences, and those are worth all of your years of that. Of public education, just saying. And I'm sure that a lot of you would agree. Ever since I started seeing that lady, I definitely think that she's extreme with what she says. And I know that you and I just both disagree, but I do think that there was a lot of things that she says that I agree with that do have some value. And she's liberal. She has a liberal standpoint. A liberal, view and belief on school. Liberal means liberty. Think of that. It means people's freedoms without the government control. So more independent, birthright, kind of, the ideas of the American Revolution. That's what liberal is over to the left. Conservative is the opposite. It's more government control. Don't try to tell me that they've switched and that they're different, because they have always been that way since the very beginning. So, that is kind of my standpoint on that as well. So, when somebody says that they're liberal and they sound like they're, wanting the government authoritative control and more, tradizionale, values, conservative values, those are what those are. And if somebody tells you I'm a liberal, and you believe, no, they're wrong. Because, otherwise you're changing logic, almost like changing a word from making to masting, which, you can do, but it's a different thing. So, we got that cleared out of the way. Now, I want to talk to you about a very, very, healing and very resonating topic. One that we're going to be doing a couple activities on this week. And it is called setting boundaries. And that is what the topic is. But before we get into that, all of you need to do the following. Look at the daily horoscope. Try to get in the habit of doing that daily, okay? Everybody also, if you haven't already, needs to see the birthday horoscope for today. Also, Colette Bill Weed has a couple videos. I myself have only watched the one, where she talks about the 7 energies of the week, and then she does the Astro Oracle reading, where she draws a card for your Sun, Moon, Ascendant. So you should all know what those are. So I want you to watch those videos, and last but not least, Deborah Silverman has her horoscope. Okay, so make sure that we keep that up. So the beginning of the week is always, that time I'm gonna, you need to watch those videos, okay? Because that's what we're doing, and that's where we're going. So setting boundaries. Yeah, in about, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4 days it'll be Scorpio season. And that will be really, really exciting. Because we're going to be getting into, the flavor of Scorpio, and the dark side and everything like that. It'll be great. And then we're also going to be seeing, if I can find a really good documentary on Pluto. We'll have to see. But if you didn't know, Aquarius and Scorpio are both interested in very, very similar things, except Scorpio is a little bit more, watery, and your intuition, all those things. Scorpio is, and I'm say this, and I'm not, stereotyping, typecasting, putting the sign into its little box of interest, but I will just say, not that it's accurate to, reality, but I will just say, just dealing with the signs, relatively country. So, Scorpio is very, very big on science. And I'm sure that if you think about that, then you'll understand why. Because Scorpio rules what is unseeable, the deeper, invisible world. Also something called the occult. So if you think about cells and atoms and molecules, all those things that you can't see, but they exist. So it just proves. So setting boundaries. Setting boundaries, commitment, stubborn commitment. Stubborn, unbending commitment. Well, slightly bending. Slightly bending but unbending. Back burner. So commitment, focus, and ultimately achievement. Now I want to talk about a personal story all of you have heard before, and that is going to get into what we're going to be reading. So, the personal story is that you all know that I used to teach over there. And you all know that way back a couple years ago in 2018 was the big deal where you all were reading quite a bit. And if the mentioned leader is experiencing something, is going through something, that so means that all of you will experience the same thing. So, it was in the decline in the fall because I was teaching several classes. I was teaching 2 at the time, English classes. And I was very, very busy. I worked very, very long hours. Very tiring, but very fun job. And those were kind of the golden days. And we were, you know, I was into reading. I was reading quite a bit in terms of what I was teaching, which I, I, I already had a plan for what I wanted and what I was interested in, but I decided to be open-minded and try it and invest so much into that. We were also doing something in addition to it that involved reading things of your own choice, but that was hard because of all the busy work. And I didn't set boundaries. I didn't set stubborn boundaries. There's a time and a place to be open about things and to try new things. But when you've already started something, when I say something, I don't mean anything. I mean novel. Movie is a different thing, but a novel, let's say. Then in order to achieve and commit and really focus and have the interest and the drive instead of, tasting, then it takes being stubborn and being defensive and only, having the motivation and mindset and, only wanting to, you know, finish what you started and, with what you already started. And it's when I didn't do that that it completely changed. It was a slow, gradual movement that I'm trying to, repair and regain back. Because I let it get the better of me. I fed in to the game and the whirlpool, and that only led to negatives. Which, if you watch Deborah Silverman's video about ale, she talks all about it. I know what you're saying. Balance, time for this, a time for that. However, I can tell you that although the idea of it, in theory, it sounds easy and smooth, in reality it dies quicker than you might think that it would. When you have the motivation for things, they're either past or they're not going to come up for another 2 months. So, that's really, the theme for this week. Now, if you didn't know, which I mentioned to all of you, that we're going to be starting reading out loud. Not, reading on your own, because we've already started something, but reading out loud a novel that I'm teaching. And this is what it is called. Never do anything that outweighs the novel. I'm sure that a lot of you heard of this. And I wonder if any of the girls read this when they were in high school. I wonder. Okay, so you read it? Anybody else know about this novel? Heard of it? Attempted? It was, I believe it was on the Great American Read book list. And it's supposed to be right up there with To Kill a Mockingbird. But let me tell you that if you give in and you put that other thing on the back burner, then it pulls you away from what you started and squashes that right out. What happens is it's, a while before you have the time and the motivation and you get tired and you want a mindless break and you lose interest and you stop doing what you started. There's not a whole lot that gets accomplished. I won't call it a bad thing. You would find me drunk to ever call that a bad thing. It's okay to try things and, okay. It's absolutely wonderful if you try things. But that's what really all that you can do when you're in those kind of situations. So that's really, going along with it. And that's really all the introduction that I have to talk about it. Now, I'm sure that you can remember, so raise your hand if you were in Cancer Clubus. We're going to be having Cancer Clubus again in the winter time. So that would be from January 3rd, next year. We're going to be having, I'm going to be having 2 clubuses. The reason why I'm going to be having both Cancer and Capricorn clubus is because if you think about the themes of Cancer, then, those sound more like winter themes. If you think about family and home and comfort food and all those things, that's why we're doing it again. But also, it's Capricorn season. So I might have to, switch the 2 around so that they're, appropriate for the time of year. Because, in July, you don't want, comfort food. Maybe the thought of work and, evidence and government, all those things would appeal more in the summertime. Well, they would, but they wouldn't, but, comparatively, maybe. So that's why we're doing that. So anyway, what I was saying about Cancer Clubus is you were reading something in possibly the Cancer as a Child section where it talked about setting boundaries. Remember, the author was sitting in the Chinese restaurant and talking to a friend, talking about setting, your boundaries of, life and home and what you're doing. Because if you, like I was watching a video for my sun sign and it said, finish one quest before you move on to the next quest. Commit. Focus. It's like one of the things I was seeing in a Ms. Mojo video about my sign is that, they change, Aries changed their minds about things. And and those days are going to change. And I want all of you to get into that practice. So, still remain open-minded, but realize that there's a time and a place. And maybe, have the idea of it, possibly, be open, but still be defensive and focusing and committed. And don't let you know, you know, don't let the whirlpool pull you in and, you know, ruin an interest. Well, and I'm probably exaggerating. I'm probably not speaking from the truth. I know that I'm not. However, you know, that I can say. So, setting boundaries. Now I know that you had, you know, somewhere to go. Okay. So, you have a meeting at your, at the headquarters. Okay. With your lawyer. Okay. Good. So, you can certainly do that. Certainly do that. Of course you need to do that. So, you can be on your way. Oh, don't worry about it. That is kind of the whole point of this whole talk that I'm having. So, yep. Okay. Now, we're going to be switching gears. You know, when we were reading Everlast, I also talked about how when you're reading it silently, you can absorb and process the story and, you know, you can understand it. You can't do two at once. But sometimes you have things that you need to do in priorities, but if you invest too much, put too much seriousness, well, then that other thing gets neglected and it pulls you away from that. So, we're going to make a compromise. I am not going to be investing so much into reading this for my teaching. Instead, you know, this is not, you know, what I have you do, because when we were reading Everlast, I did, you know, read things out loud, but I said, read it on your own. And I'm sure that all of you had, you know, all of you, well, if you're reading something else, you had all the time in the world. And plus, I had you, you know, a lot of you didn't have something else because you were only focusing on that one thing. That's not the case. That's not the case. I like the idea, but, they didn't fully understand what independent truly meant. Of course, there's always a catch to it. So, we're going to be reading it out loud. I'll be reading it out loud to you. We'll be learning from it, gaining from it. I hope that you'll like the story and all. Let me tell you, everything is significant. Everything is a masterpiece. It doesn't have to be a classic to be a masterpiece. But it will be, you know, read out loud, and we'll read it, and you'll probably like it, and, you know, we'll talk about it. But point being that it only exists for the purpose of being read here, and we won't really, you know, put too much, you know, investment emphasis on it, you know, still, case in point. So this is kind of a compromise. So, you all have copies that I took back from, you know, teaching that I went in there. Well, I only had one germ killer, and I introduced it, and they were open. And yeah, I didn't need to do that. I didn't need to. Um, well, yes, for, an amount of time that wasn't 8 hours. But when I have the germ killer product, I'm going to use it. So, anyway, I got a box of copies. All of you can grab all of these. Now, okay, I'm really going against what I believe. This will be raw red, so meaning I have read it, skimmed through it, but I really hardly know what it is about. So I'm going into this like all of you are going into it. So that's what's gonna happen. So, now this is the thing. This is the thing. If you come to me and if you say, "Oh, I want to read it on your own," or to read in Dragon Rider, this is the thing. This is the thing, is that unless you can successfully balance it out for a long time, and if you're absolutely positively sure, then, well, you implored to do it. You implored it. Absolutely.